Hello everyone, welcome back to task 14. In this week, we are going to use again conditional operator but in a different scenario. This time, the user is going to enter three numbers and we have to find which is the greatest among them. Okay, so let us begin. So, first of all, we have to take the input from the user uh, for three numbers, right? So let us say all the numbers are int and it's a, b and c. There are three numbers a, b, c. We have to take the input from the user, so let's say printf enter three numbers comma separated. Okay, so after that we will do scanf, and since we have done it comma separated, so I will just do %d comma and %d. Okay, so between numbers you have to put comma. That is what we have mentioned over here. Then the first %d goes for a, second one for b, and third one for c. Okay, so this finishes up with my input. Now one thing I forgot in the last lecture, last task, is to add the purpose of the program. I usually do this in every task. So this is actually greatest number finder. Okay, so this just tells you what this program is going to do. Okay, so next, once we have a, b, and c, now our job is to print which of them is greater. Okay, now to do this there are multiple ways of doing it. I will show you a few of them. Let's begin with the first one. In the first one, I will check whether a is greater than b. That is my first check that I'm going to do. If this is true, okay, so that means I have to check for a condition, so I will add a question mark. If this is true, I cannot directly say whether it makes a bigger or not. Okay, so I have to also check whether a is greater than c also, right? So what I will do is, inside this I will check for if a is greater than c, right? So if it is true, if the first case is true, then I would check a is greater than c also, right? Now before I go ahead, I would when I use conditional operator, I use a certain technique so that I don't forget where the certain blocks are, right? So what I usually do is, whenever I want to use conditional operator, I start with the operator symbols. Okay, so I know I want to use at least one, right? So I will put my operators, then I will start with brackets all around them and finish it off with the semicolon. Okay, so now I know, so whatever is the condition will come inside this bracket. Okay, so the true statement will come inside this bracket and the false statement will come inside this bracket. Okay, now these brackets are completely optional. I use it so that I understand where the particular block is starting and where the particular section is ending. Okay, so let's say first I want to check a greater than b, right? So if this is true, then I have to check a greater than c also, right? So a greater than c, right? So the wrong operator, a greater than c, right? If this is also true, okay, so again I will just finish off the operator so that I don't miss out. So always remember, whenever you put a question mark, you should always add its colon also along with it, otherwise you later on you will forget, right? So that's why as soon as I add this question mark, I added a colon for this, right? So in this case I have checked a greater than b, true. So if it is true, it comes over here. So if then it checks a greater than c. So if both of them are true, that means it comes over here. And if it comes over here, it simply means that a is the largest. Okay. So I can just say printf and a is largest. Okay. A is largest. Now saying a is largest will not help us, because a, we do not know what is a, right? It is the way only the program knows what is a, b and c. So instead of writing here a, I would prefer using %d, and at the end I will just pass on a, right? So a is the so a value will be replaced over here, so that it will be saying that particular number is largest. Okay, so that is one step. Okay, the same thing I have to repeat for other steps also. So what if this is true and this is false, that means a is greater than b, but a is not greater than c, right? So a is greater than b, that we have already found out, but a is not greater than c. That simply means that c is greater than a and b, right? So that means in this particular section I would simply say c is the largest. Okay, now once we have done this particular step, our half the section is over. Okay, so if you remember, I have added empty brackets, so that means this whole section is left, right? So this section was for when a is not greater than b. So if a is not greater than b, that means b is greater than a, right? So if b is greater than a, I cannot directly say b is the largest. I have to check for c also, right? So in here I will start with b greater than c or not, yes or no, right? So if b is greater than c, then obviously b is the largest. I will just copy this statement from here and paste it over here. If this particular statement is true, then b is the largest. If this is false, then that means, as the previous case, c is the largest. Okay, so we have written the program. We will just run this and let's enter three numbers, 3, 6 and 9. So here you know 9 is the greatest. If I enter, it completely hangs. Okay, so that was my mistake. I forgot to add ampersand sign. I always forget to add this ampersand sign. Okay, then 4, 7, 9. So again 9 is the largest. If I press enter, you can see it says 9 is largest. Okay, so you may try other numbers, it will give you the output. Okay, now next, this is one way of doing it. This is a bit tricky, but I will show you a few more methods. Okay, I want to use the same what do you say, logic, but much more cleaner way. Okay, I will just show you. So I will create a new variable. Okay, greatest. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to check which one is greatest. The reason why I'm going to do this is, if you see, I'm using printf too many times. Okay, and it is printing the same thing again and again, right? So it is printing which is the largest, right? So instead of that, what my logic says is, let's find out the greatest number and do printf only once, right? So to do that, what we can do is, let's say greatest, right? And what you can do is return instead of printing it, I will just cut this out from here and paste it over here, and instead of A, B and C, I will be printing it as greatest over here. So what I'm going to do over here is, uh, um, instead of using so many printfs, I'm not going to do printfs, right? I'm going to say what is the greatest number. Okay, I will just replace all these things from here. All the printfs I'm going to remove. Okay, so I have removed all the printfs, right? So you can see it has already become a shorter version, right? So I have to put values over here. Okay, so basically these are those values which are the greatest numbers. Okay, so out of this three, which is the greatest, right? So A greater than B and A greater than C, that means A is greater, right? Else the C variable is greater, right? And if A is less than B and B is greater than C, that means B is greater, else C is greater. Okay, so I have uh, shortened this out, but then this is not doing anything right now. This has to be saved somewhere, right? Saved into the greatest variable, right? So simply what you can do is you can just use the assignment operator. So what it is doing is it is doing the checking, and based on these checkings, whatever is the greatest variable, that will be assigned into the greatest whatever is the variable, that will be assigned to the greatest variable. Okay, so if I just run this again, I can have 683. Now here 8 is the largest, and if you enter, so I entered it twice, let me run it again. 4, 6 and 1, if I enter, you can see 6 is the largest. Okay, so this was another logic of how you can do the program with an additional variable. This looks much cleaner than the previous one, right? It is the same as the previous one, only I'm using I'm reducing the number of printfs a little bit. Okay, now I will show you the third way that you can do. I will just remove everything. Okay, now you can use AND operations to make it even more simpler. Okay, so how to do that is, what you are basically checking uh, is A greater than B and A greater than C, right? So I can just do is A greater than B, and AND operation is done by double AND operators, right? And A is greater than C, right? So I'm checking A is greater than B and A is greater than C. In that case, I will just enclose this entire thing inside brackets so that they are executed together, right? So is A greater than B and A greater than C, that means A is the largest, right? So I can just say printf, I can just say A, and I will return this greatest equal to A. Else we are not sure as to whether B is greater or C is greater. So again here I can have another conditional operator where I would say is let's say A is B greater than A and B greater than C, right? So first we checked whether A is greater than both of them. So if it is true, then A is the largest, right? In the false statement, I am doing another conditional check. Okay, so I'm going to do another conditional check, which is again going to have a different conditional statement. Okay, So this is going to check whether B is greater than A and B is greater than C. If comes out to be true, that means B is greater than both of them, then the output should be B. Okay, so and in the final stage, okay, in the final stage we can say that C is the largest number if it comes till here, right? Why? Because we have checked for A, so it came out to be true, that's why we checked for B, and that also came out to be the first one came out to be false. If it would have been true, then A would be returned. If it would have been false, then this statement is executed, and if this is true, then B is the largest. But if this is false, we have checked for A and we have checked for B, right? If both of them are not greatest, obviously the remaining number, that is C, has to be the greatest. Okay, so that is why in the last statement I have put it as C. Okay, so this was the third method using the AND operation, right? So you can check two conditions at the same time. I will just show you. Run the code. Okay, so it is giving me print. Acha, I have forgot to add the semicolon. Okay, so let's say 1, 6 and 9. Obviously 9 is the largest. You can see it perfectly gives you the output. Okay, so this finishes with the greatest number. We will see you in the next task.